Hello everyone, and welcome back to Diamond and Revi, where today, I'm Revi right now, but today we're gonna be talking about the history of the Sherman tank. Now, as we know, the Sherman is the famous mass-produced and general-purpose tank of the United States in World War II, and it was really effective against German tanks. Well, because they had the numbers, they were reliable, and they were easy to maintain. So today we're going to talk about the whole history of the Sherman tanks. So before we do that, please like and subscribe, and now we'll get into it. After World War I, 1918, the tank was thought to be a land battleship, which meant that it had an absurd amount of machine guns because at the time there were trench warfare and the main target was always infantry. But after World War II broke out, it showed that the land battleship indication was not effective anymore. Instead, tanks would focus on one main cannon and only have a small amount of machine guns. As World War II grew stronger, so did the cannons. It became clear in 1941 that the British needed a bigger gun than 37 millimeters in gun caliber. America came up with a solution. Because they didn't have time to make a 75 millimeter cannon in the fully rotating turret, the U.S. came up with a stopgap solution, the M3 Lee. The M3 Lee had a 75 millimeter cannon, yes it did, but it was stored in the hull. It had insanely limited traverse, which meant for the gun to fire on an enemy on the sides or rear, the whole tank would have to move and turn towards and face the target for the 75 millimeter cannon in front to fire. As a backup, they also put the rudimentary 37 millimeter cannon in a fully rotating turret, although it did little damage, and it was mostly used for infantry support. Finally, the U.S. made a fully rotating turret with a 75 millimeter cannon. This was called the M4A1 Sherman. The Sherman was originally designed for infantry support, though later upgraded to anti-tank use. The M4A1 had a fully cast hull, which meant the whole hull was one piece, as any hole between two plates is a weak spot. Though this was effective, only few manufacturing companies could build it, so the Army switched production to the M4 and M4A2 variants. These tanks were welded together. Though that meant that they had weak spots, they could now be mass-produced. The Sherman first saw combat at the Second Battle of El Alamein. They would prove most effective and impactful on the battlefield as their armor could bounce off early war low-caliber anti-tank guns, and its 75 millimeter cannon was very effective with its HE rounds blasting through infantry positions. Despite its early success, though, it became a standard tank in 1942 with the introduction of the Panzer IV Ausführung F2, later renamed the Panzer IV Ausführung G. This tank had a long-barreled 75 millimeter cannon compared to the Sherman's standard 75 millimeter medium barrel cannon, which the Panzer IV Ausführung F2's gun had more anti-tank punch, although both tanks could easily penetrate each other. After the invasion of Sicily, Italy, in 1943, the Army preferred the M4A3 variant rather than the M4 and M4A2 variants, and they were transported for the United States Marine Corps use. For Europe, they used the M4A3, which had the 4GAA V8 gasoline engine, which was adequate for the Sherman. It had better frontal armor, but a vertical 38mm side armor, which was a gigantic weak spot, let alone its tall profile. But even with sufficient flaws, the Sherman worked well because it was simple to mass produce, reliable, and easy to repair in the field. This meant even if it was out-armored and outgunned, it always had multiple tanks to fight together. The second point was that the Sherman was reliable and rarely broke down, unlike later Panthers and Tigers. And if the Sherman really did break down, it could be as easy as take the engine out and swap another in, and that process only took 2 hours, which is incredible. One example was the Battle of Jericho, where American tank crews used the Sherman's faster turret traverse, superior reload time, and good crew coordination to defeat advanced Panther tanks in the fog. But before we continue, if you are enjoying this video, please like and subscribe to support us, and let's continue. After D-Day on June 6, 1944, the Allies realized that the Sherman's gun could not penetrate the German tanks at the time anymore, as the gun proved no longer adequate against German heavy armor. To fix that, the U.S. Army replaced the medium-barreled 75mm cannon on some Shermans with a 76mm high-velocity, long-barreled cannon, which could penetrate the Panther's side armor and the Tiger one at almost any angle, at a range of about 500 yards. This variant of the Sherman worked together with the Shermans with the 75mm cannon. The 75mm Shermans would take care of the infantry positions, while the 76mm Shermans would take care of the tanks. Then another variant came, and this one carried the blistering 105mm short-barrel howitzer. This fired an incredible 2.3 kg of explosive filler that can blow entire buildings. Vice versa, they were together. A nickname that the British called the Shermans were called Ronsons, after the lighter that states lights first time, every time, which indicated the Shermans frequently burst into flames when hit and penetrated. First, the U.S. Army tried to add extra armor to the place where they stowed the ammunition, but that didn't work. Instead, they invented something called wet stowage. Basically, when a wet bin was hit, the liquid would flow into ammunition compartments, therefore preventing an ammunition fire. Another upgrade was the HVSS, horizontal solid spring suspension system. This meant that the springs were horizontal between the wheels instead of vertical against the ground. This meant that it had a lower ground pressure, giving smoother rides on all terrains. To fit with it, the 75 and 76mm cannons were fitted with a gyroscopic stabilizer. This meant that the gun stayed level on the ground while the tank was moving on rough terrain. This feature was one of its kind at the time. When we pieced the 76mm cannon, the gyroscopic stabilizer, the wet ammo storage, the HVSS, and the M4A3 hull, we ultimately get the best version, known as the EZ8 or M4A3E8. This was the final upgrade to the Sherman, and it continued to serve in the Korean War, which it handled Soviet T-3485s adequately. In the end, the Sherman tank proved that teamwork and reliability win wars. While German tanks were bigger and had thicker armor, they broke down constantly and were hard to repair. The Sherman was the opposite. It was easy to drive, rarely broke down, and could be shipped across the Atlantic by the thousands. It was the ultimate workhorse of the Allied armies. By being dependable where it mattered most, the Sherman did not just survive World War II, it helped win it.